How big is your view of the faith? Is your faith comprehensive in its scope and authority? It seems like an odd question, but the answer really determines your faith's relevancy. Now, many people will say that their faith is the most important thing in their lives, but that only ranks its importance. Your faith can be number one in your list of priorities without it being comprehensive over all of life and thought. For instance, would your spouse be content if you assured her that you loved her more than any other woman? Well, that statement would imply you felt there was plenty of room for other women, would it not? The question is, how big is your Christianity? Is your faith comprehensive in its scope and authority? 30 years ago, my father wrote a position paper entitled Box Theology. In that article, he compared a limited view of God and the faith to a box in a room or a single office in the Empire State Building. Some do define their faith as limited in scope. They see its applicability as limited, perhaps to the spiritual realm, perhaps to believers, or to one's personal life. But in some way, they see the faith as limited. In so limiting the faith, they really put limits on God and the authority of His Word. The Church cannot authoritatively speak to what lies, by definition, outside its area of concern. If the Word of God is only for the believer, then the secular realm becomes outside the concern of the Church. If any area, such as education, politics, economics, law, or art, are outside the box as defined by such thinking, then they're outside of the Church's concern. If they are outside the box, in fact, such matters will be said to distract from the Church's true calling, which presumably is to stay in its box. Many who have defined their faith in such a way feel that they are very faithful. Why? Because they are staying in the box that they have defined. But if the faith is truly comprehensive, and God's authoritative word is a command word to all men, then their faithfulness is in fact faithlessness to this larger message. I'm not suggesting we expand our box. I'm saying there is no box. God's authority is over all things and all men. Box theology is presumptuous. It limits the faith and imagines limits on the jurisdiction of God and His Word. But what kind of a God is a limited God? Box theology implicitly says that there are areas outside the box that are of no concern to God or His Church. But God nowhere says, my jurisdiction is limited. He doesn't say, my word is only binding on those who believe in it. In fact, such thinking actually establishes a pretense that there is a legitimacy in unbelief. Whenever we deny the sovereignty of God in any area, what we're really doing is claiming that there's another sovereignty that is legitimate in that area. It is not by accident that God's revelation to Moses began with creation. He is the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. Many people do have a limited view of God and His Word and the faith. This is not to say their faith is not everything to them. There's a difference, though, in seeing the faith as comprehensive in scope and having a box theology and retreating within its confines. We do not make a small box any bigger by crawling inside it and making it our world. So, how big is your view of the faith? The only way to make the faith relevant to our world and life view is to accept God as sovereign and His Word as authoritative in heaven and in earth.